Hey everyone, Brian Zane here with my special review of Fastlane 2016. The setup, as you might have noticed, is a little different than usual. That's because I'm reporting to you from my vacation in fabulous Maui. Bali High, da da da, da da da. Yes, I know, that's a South Pacific reference and it's not the same as Maui or Hawaii, but just work with me here. Anyway, me being on vacation was not going to stop me from talking to you about Fastlane, get you my thoughts on it. So without further ado, let's begin with the 2 out of 3 falls match in the pre-show. Kalisto defending the US title against Alberto Del Rio. I like the fact that lately we've been seeing more 2 out of 3 falls matches in WWE. To me, those kind of matches, it's very old school, but it still adds this element of excitement you don't normally see in some typical one-on-one matchups or regular championship matches. So I like them doing 2 out of 3 falls. To me, that's a good way of ending, hopefully, the rivalry between these two. I mean, I don't mean hopefully like, oh God, I'm so bored with this rivalry, I hope they end it. But I'm saying if they were to end the rivalry, this is a good way to cap it off. I think Del Rio said in some interviews recently that he's doing for Kalisto what Rey Mysterio did for him several years ago during his first run in the company, and that was helping legitimize Del Rio and making him more of a believable threat to the mainstream audience, and that's what Del Rio is doing for Kalisto here. I think Kalisto's benefiting in a huge way, not just from winning the championship, but also just working with Del Rio in these matches. So yes, this I think was a really good 2 out of 3 falls match. The first fall with Del Rio cheating to win, or to lose the first fall in order to get an easy second fall was, I think, great psychology. It was great storytelling. His use of the double stomp was probably the best and most sensical way he's used that move since he's brought it out in WWE in his second run. I think, a lot of people have said in my comments section about the worst finisher video I did, how Del Rio's double stomp should definitely be up there, and the longer it's gone on, I'm more inclined to agree. Just because of the way it has to be set up, and it makes the opponent look really stupid taking it. But the way Kalisto set it up for Del Rio to give it on this night made a ton of sense, and that is a rarity when it comes to the use of the double stomp. So yes, good form with them doing that. But yeah, again, if this is the end of the rivalry, it's a great way to cap it off. It really helped legitimize Kalisto in his run as a singles guy with the US title. So I think it was a great way to start the show. Also, quick side note, way less botchy of a match than their last pay-per-view match. Up next, the official opener of the show. It was Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch versus Naomi and Tamina. Not very often you see a women's match open a pay-per-view in WWE. Usually that spot is reserved for more high-impact, high-flying style of mid-card and the more exciting people to get you pumped for the show. And these gals did a very good job of getting people pumped. I think it was a very good opening match. Told a really good story of the unestablished team, the reluctant allies going against the established team. And even if this is kind of a one-off thing as a way of spinning their wheels and just kind of getting the momentum going toward WrestleMania, whatever that match is going to be, I think he did a good job of that. I actually spent a little more time than usual kind of listening to and nitpicking some of the commentary. Like Michael Cole, his voice cracks, like, oh, you do know your suplex. That made me laugh really hard. And then Byron Saxton calling Naomi, or maybe it was Tamina, the Kermit the Frog of the group was just kind of, that kind of went over my head. And then JBL dropping the ever-timely Christian Laettner reference when referring to Byron Saxton. So, and I know that JBL does that all the time. He drops these really obscure, older sports references in his commentary, but that one has particularly stuck out with me for some reason. But anyway, yeah, it was a fine opener. Everyone looked good. Yeah, I have to say it was a really good opener. Up next, the Intercontinental Championship match, Kevin Owens defending against Dolph Ziggler. It's a match we've seen a lot in the last few months, especially in the build just for this match in particular, where it's, oh, Ziggler got some singles wins on Kevin Owens, so that makes him worthy of having the championship match. And, we've seen the match a lot, and we've seen this is just kind of indicative of all the 50-50 booking, the repetitive booking creative does. So on the one hand, while I hate creative for doing that, at the same time, I applaud the wrestlers for the most part, being able to make every match just a little bit different, telling a little bit different of a story, just so it's not the same cut and paste match that you see on paper every week. I think, and speaking of Kevin Owens, I think it's been almost a year now since he debuted on the main roster, and even though sometimes the way he's been booked has not been 100% perfect, I think the position he's in now is very good. Where he is a very good place. So it always makes me laugh when I see stories after an internet darling makes the jump over to the main to WWE. Like in the case of AJ Styles most recently, where it's like, oh, AJ Styles already has heat with Vince. And like there was such a similar story about that with Kevin Owens before that. And if you just kind of look at the history of, you know, these people who are revered on the internet coming to WWE and all of a sudden suddenly having big heat, or a wrestler people love, whether they've been established or not, suddenly getting heat with McMahon just after he starts getting a push. And I think it's so reactionary. And to me, I don't take much stock into stories like that. So when I heard the story about Kevin Owens having heat early on and things like that, when I hear the story about AJ Styles having heat, I just don't listen to it. To me, that's just not true half the time. Or if it is, it's so minute and so overblown by the wrestling media that by the time the dust is settled, it's oh, well, okay, he seems to be doing fine for himself. And so that's kind of my little tangent on Kevin Owens. The match itself was really fun. It was a war of a match. These guys just beat the hell out of each other. Dolph Ziggler is, to me, the best seller of our generation. I think, you know, he's very reminiscent of Kurt Hennig in that way. So yeah, Ziggler, I loved when he went chest first, shoulder first into the turnbuckle when Kevin Owens got his heat back. I think that was just a great sell, and just everything he did. You know, a lot of people might say he takes a lot of unnecessary bumps in his matches, but I mean, every night, even though he's not in the most interesting storylines at some times, you always know he's going to just sell like the devil for anyone, really. So again, like I said, this is a fine match. I have no problem with either of these two guys. I just want them to move on. What you'll see throughout this show, there's a lot of wheel spinning. There's a lot of kind of running in place as they get ready for WrestleMania. It doesn't always have to be like that, which is why it's so frustrating to see a match like this. Albeit a good one, I'm kind of tired of seeing these two fight each other, and I want each of them to do something a little different. 6 Hoss tag team match. The Big Show, Ryback, and Demon Kane versus Erick, Rowan, Braun Strowman, and Luke Harper of the Wyatts. To me, this whole storyline that they had for this month comes off such like a SmackDown versus Raw career mode kind of thing, where it's just so hokey to me. Bray Wyatt coming out going, I've beaten the Titans and we're the new blood. And it just comes off to me as so reminiscent of just a few months ago when Bray Wyatt was like, I've absorbed the Undertaker's powers. And speaking of which, it's very weird he hasn't used those since his feud with the Undertaker. I find that very odd. Anyway, I mean, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention in this match. I was actually honestly drinking more. But one thing I was reminded of when I was watching it, there was the rumor a couple weeks ago that, oh, Braun Strowman was almost a shoo-in to fight the Undertaker at WrestleMania this year, and then all of a sudden it became, oh, well, it's 99% sure that's not going to happen. And I find it very interesting. I don't know why they had that sudden change of heart, or even if the Strowman rumor was legitimate at all. It just goes to show you, with especially, like I mentioned several months ago in my Undertaker who his opponent's going to be video, at this point it could literally be anyone, especially now there's the rumor that it's going to be someone who's not even an active wrestler on the main roster. It opens up a lot of different possibilities for that one. But anyway, the match itself, again, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. I noticed Big Show was yelling an awful lot, which I thought was kind of funny. Not a great looking shell shock in that match to finish it. And you know what? With the Wyatts losing, I wouldn't mind them losing this match if they didn't lose so much. And, you know, people have been talking about this ad nauseum for the last 2 years, how the Wyatts and Bray Wyatt can't win a rivalry to save their lives. And I would think of all the feuds that the Wyatts have done, you think they would just win this one because it would give them the momentum going into WrestleMania for whatever they're doing, whether it's something high profile or not. But for God's sake, when you've got a guy like, you know, the Big Show and Kane, who are basically jobbers now, they've been here forever, but they're letting the new guys get over on them. Big Show himself said in his interview with Stone Cold that he's only won about 8 matches in the last year, which is pretty remarkable. But it's crazy that it's come to the Wyatts lost this one. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. Or at least Ryback, the relatively new guy in the roster in that match, got the win. Divas Championship match. Charlotte defending against Brie Bella. First of all, Ric Flair strutting and dancing to Charlotte's theme is the funniest thing ever. It will always be funny to me. Second of all, Charlotte is the worst seller of all time. She sells stronger than Kane in his first year in the company sold for things. She just doesn't react with pain to anything, and that makes it so hard to like take her seriously or want to root for her success, because when you see her, she's like not putting anyone over when she's not selling. It's really frustrating to watch. On the flip side, with Brie Bella, it's very disappointing that the only way they can get her over is by invoking the name and the gimmick and everything of Daniel Bryan. I think that's doing a disservice to her, because I'm sure she can get over on her own, but the fact that they're constantly doing the yes thing and she wore his kick pads tonight, I think it was just so hokey. I think the thing that pissed me off about this match, the finish in particular, was when Brie had Charlotte in the half crab and Ric Flair's distraction was just yelling, "What about Daniel? What about Daniel?" And that somehow distracted Brie to the point where she lost her control of the hold and Charlotte got one over on Brie, which is like, wait a minute, you dedicated the match to Daniel Bryan and Nikki Bella, so they were already on your mind, and the fact that that distraction put you so out of it that you lost your concentration, to me, was so stupid. That was just a weird way to end the match. I wasn't totally thrilled with this match, honestly. I mean, they did okay up to the finish, but I was like, take it or leave it. AJ Styles and Chris Jericho in their rubber match. This was a great match, and this overall has been a great rivalry, short-lived as it is, to help legitimize AJ and put him over with people who might not know who he is, because some fans don't follow TNA or New Japan, so they don't really know what AJ Styles is about. I think they've done a very good job building AJ Styles up as best they can without invoking his time in TNA. So this match, especially with him going over, was a great way to help legitimize him in the eyes of fans. One thing I noticed with the dueling chants they had going on through the match, it seems to me they're painting Y2J as a heel, or they're turning him in that direction. They're not maybe explicitly making him heel yet, but I feel they're going to make that eventually. The fact that they had the dueling chants, to me, shows the fans aren't quite willing to embrace that just yet. Again, it was a really good match, kind of had me on the edge of my seat the whole time. Those guys can really go. The one thing I thought was very surprising was Jericho losing, with AJ Styles going over by way of submission. I can count maybe on one hand the number of times Jericho has tapped and lost, especially in the last 5-7 years or so. Maybe a couple times as a face going against Chris Benoit in the early 2000s, but really, I can't think of much since then. It's been really rare. So for him to lose via submission is huge for AJ Styles. So yeah, again, great match and great way for AJ Styles to have a lot of momentum going into WrestleMania. The Cutting Edge Peep Show, Edge and Christian interviewing The New Day. I said last month that they needed something to break up the monotony of New Day versus Usos for a while, and I guess this was it, but I don't really... There's a reason that they don't have a lot of promo segments or talking segments in pay-per-views as a general rule, because they can feel super flat. They can go one of two ways. They can either be amazing, but it's very rare, or they end up super boring, which is what this one was. I thought it was funny they brought up the fact that something I mentioned in my Best of 2015 video a couple of months ago, how the New Day are basically a reincarnated version of Edge and Christian in their prime. So I thought that was hilarious that they brought that up. But then the League of Nations come in, and then they just kind of exchange really stupid zingers toward each other, and Barrett at least gets his 5 words in. But yeah, I mean, everyone has kind of looked kind of flat in this one. No one came to blows. There was no real big blow off to this. It was just kind of League of Nations looking like a bunch of idiots in there with their junk in their hands, while the New Day and Edge and Christian just kind of mocked them. The fact that Edge and Christian and the New Day were trash talking each other 5 minutes before, and then they were on the same side at the end of the segment, that was a really confusing ending. It was a really dumb way to plug whatever Edge and Christian's show was after Fastlane. So I kind of, if something had happened, if there was some kind of fisticuffs, or maybe someone else comes in to break up the monotony, it would have been a little more interesting. But I think the League of Nations, what an aimless group that is. But yeah, really flat segment. Also, quick op-ed on the whole King Barrett giving his notice thing. A lot of people have been asking me to give my thoughts on it, so I figured I would just do it now. With Barrett, obviously, it's a real shame that he wasn't used to his full potential, because, I never thought he was an amazing worker. I never watched him go, oh, this guy's the future of the business. But I loved his charisma and his attitude and just his promo style and his delivery and his character. I thought those were all really cool. But unfortunately, his body has the constitution of wet tissue paper, and he was injured a lot. So I understand why the company wouldn't want to spend a lot of time pushing this guy and making him look good if he gets hurt every other month. Which is the case now. He's hurt right now, which is why he doesn't wrestle. So on the one hand, I understand Barrett's frustration and wanting to leave. I hope eventually he can come back and do some kind of on-camera speaking role with the company, because I think he'd be amazing at that. But I understand why they don't let him wrestle right now, or why they keep jobbing him out. I get why they don't push him, because it's hard to put all your eggs in the basket of someone who keeps getting injured. It's the Daniel Bryan fallacy, basically. So yeah, it sucks for fans of Barrett's work. I hope he gets better, and I hope that he can wrestle somewhere where he gets exposure and can work a lighter schedule so he doesn't risk hurting himself so much. But it just doesn't cut it in WWE. R-Truth and Curtis Axel did not watch this match, did not care. Why was this not in the pre-show? Why couldn't it have swapped spots with the United States title match? I don't know, whatever. They're trying to further this storyline with Goldust and R-Truth. Really don't care. Moving on. Main event for the #1 contendership for the title. It was Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Brock Lesnar. This was just a fun match to watch. I had a blast watching this thing because I love the chemistry that Reigns and Ambrose have as like brothers and everything. I thought the spot, in particular when Ambrose low-blowed Lesnar to save Reigns, they had kind of a good laugh about it for a minute. I thought that was hilarious. I thought it was awesome they kept putting Brock through tables. I wanted them to put him through the third table just for the hat trick, because that would have been amazing. I don't know why they stopped at 2. But it was just a lot of fun spots. I had a great time watching this. It was very reminiscent to me of last year's Royal Rumble triple threat match for the title. And it was Lesnar, Cena, and Seth Rollins. Those guys all brought it, and then on this night, the same thing happened. I thought there was a lot of good chemistry between those 3 guys. A couple of knocks on it. One, this spot happened on this match and a lot of other things throughout the night where somebody would take a finisher and then roll out of the ring to avoid getting pinned. That happened at least 3 or 4 other times during this show, and I thought that was very lazy planning by the producers or the wrestlers or whatever, the fact they had to repeat that spot. And then, of course, the ending I didn't like. I wasn't so mad that Roman Reigns won, and I'll get to that in a minute, but I hated the fact that he basically no-sold 3 chair shots and then just magically woke up with a spear, and that killed Ambrose dead. That, to me, didn't make a lot of sense and kind of made me mad. And basically now, what we are left with is for the 3rd year in a row, the main event of WrestleMania could be very shitty without some major intervention. Just listening to the crowd, you could tell they didn't really care that Roman Reigns won. They never seemed to care. At the risk of sounding a bit like a smart mark, I just wish WWE would take a gamble on Dean Ambrose and put him in the spot that Roman Reigns is in now, because you can tell he just has more of a connection with the fans. He's the common man. He's won the hearts and the minds of the people in the way Roman Reigns has never been able to do, even at his peak right after TLC when he won the title. It just seems so nearsighted, so short-sighted to me that the company is just pushing through with this Roman Reigns as the top guy thing. I mean, I get you have a plan, but not every plan works out. Just look at the last couple of years of WrestleMania when you had to call an audible. Will they have to do the same thing again this year? I don't know. It's just complete madness to me that they haven't done this. But yeah, I mean, that's my only real negative about this match, is that I think if they really wanted to get some excitement going into the next month, they should have had Dean Ambrose win. That's my take on it. So I'm going to be unusually generous with my grade for this show and give it a B grade. I think that match quality-wise, with the exception of some bonkers finishes, like in the Women's Championship match and then the main event, the match quality was great. Every match, though, was like super competitive. It was really weird. There was no lopsided matches or squashes or matches that looked bad. Everyone, I think, looked good for the most part. So I think this was a really good match. I mean, yeah, the New Day, Edge and Christian thing sucked, and the R-Truth Curtis Axel match, I could not care less about. But if you take those away, I think every other match was just really delivered. So I'm going to give it a B grade. Let me know what you think of Fastlane in the comments section. I really will look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time. Bali hi, da da da. Come to me, come to me.